Hi everyone, here we are. G'day Jim, how are you going?
Yeah, good.
So welcome everyone to number 80 of Ask Jim tonight. So make sure, guys, you leave some questions and comments for Jim, especially early on in the piece, because as we get rolling, we tend to not get to everything because there's so many. So please leave your questions and comments for Jim as well. And maybe you just want to touch on early, Jim, what's been happening with everything with just update the group and some small business owners who might be watching.
Um, we're still waiting on legal advice on this business about claiming compensation for the government. So I've got some lawyers working on it. I hope to have it last week, but not. And so when we have this done, we'll be able to post it on our Facebook Jim's Group Facebook page, and we'll tell people how to apply for a compensation for the government, and if you're refused, which you almost certainly will be, how to appeal to VCAT. I don't promise anybody will get any money. I mean, obviously the government will fight with everything they have to stop people getting what's rightfully theirs under the legislation, but we can certainly have a try.
And this is something you've funded yourself, haven't you, on behalf of small business owners and not just franchisees, it's behalf of everyone as well. Yeah. So, guys, thank you for watching this.
We'll pay for the legal advice.
Yeah. So, guys, stay tuned to the Facebook page for those details. We'll post them as we always do. And then Jim's graciously paid for that. And then small business owners can join in as well. So, guys, if you are watching, there's 80 people watching now, which is fantastic. Make sure you leave a question or a comment in the box as well. So, while everyone's coming on, Jim, let's actually start off with Jim's book club while we wait for the comments and questions to start coming through. What have you been reading this week or listening to?
I've just finished to listen to a podcast called The Celtic Holocaust, which is about Caesar's conquest of Gaul, which is always written from the Caesar's Gallic Commentary, is a very famous book. But as somebody described it, it's like you were reading about Star Wars as written by Darth Vader. So the ultimate bad guy. He probably killed a million people, which is maybe a third of the population of the entire country of what's now France. It was mass murder on a vast scale. And half of those who weren't killed were enslaved, which is almost as bad. So that was interesting. Yes, so lots of good stuff going on.
And that was a podcast, was it?
That's a podcast, yeah. What else have I got? Actually, there's a few interesting things coming up. There's one called Legions versus Phalanxes, which I'm really interested to get into. There's a talking book too. I forget the name. Not a talking book. A book. Actually, it's talking about people's false idea of the world and how people think the world's getting worse, when in fact, by every measurable way, it's getting better. It's very interesting stuff.
Is that Steven Pinker one?
One of the questions it asks is, what's happened to the number of people living in poverty over the last 30 years? Has it gone up? Has it stayed the same, or has it gone down? Now, most people think it's actually got worse or stayed the same, but in fact, the number of people in poverty is about halved. People talk about population problems. They say, okay, here's a question for you. Based on the best estimate, there's about 2 million children in the world right now. How many will there be at the end of the century? And most people think there's going to be a lot more, but in fact, best estimates is about the same. The population growth is still going on, but that's because the children are growing up when they used to die. But there's a lot of wonderful stuff like that.
Steven Pinker called Enlightenment Now, which I think is pretty similar to what you're saying then. I don't know if there's the same thing, but Enlightenment Now by Steve Pinker was a similar one. So we've got 80 people watching, guys, so make sure you leave a question and comment in there for Jim. I don't know if I can see him on my stream, so make sure you leave your questions and comments in there now, guys, for Jim. And maybe let's just talk about the recession figures today, or the recession announcement today, which is pretty big headlines and news. What are your thoughts about that, and what do you think moving forward is going to happen with that?
Well, it's terrible. The lockdown has been absurd. This whole business of locking down sole operators working alone is just absolutely senseless. The Premier's own Department of Public Health and Human Services actually stated in its guidelines that sole operators alone on the site could operate, because obviously in no danger to health. This is the best expert advice. The Premier then goes on a press conference a week later and says, I'm shutting them all down. I've sent him 3 open letters to say why. What's the reason? Mm-hmm. Why did you change your mind? Why did you ignore your expert's advice? Why did you, what evidence have you got that a sole operator is any danger to health? The Premier says he consults widely with business. Well, I'm the only person speaking for tens of thousands of small traders, and he hasn't even given me a one-line reply. So I think it's just garbage. He knows perfectly well there's no reason. And what that's done is it's caused immensely more damage than needs to be caused. Yes, we shouldn't be going to, mass churches and rallies and big parties and stuff. We know that's dangerous, but the kind of stuff that our people do is just no danger at all. It's shocking what he's done, and it's made everything so much worse. It's the suffering is terrible. There's a wonderful letter from doctors pleading with the premier to change his mind because suicide attempts are going through the roof. I've got an email from somebody today whose son's attempted suicide, almost succeed. The daughter's at university and is stuck at home. She's got terrible problems like what do you call it when you
Anorexia, was it?
anorexia,
Yep.
and she's in deep depression, and he knows other people are in the same situation. The mental health impact of this is terrible. So in my mind, the premier has blood on his hands. People are going to die because of these stupid policies. I just hope that he's going to see sense, and we're going to come back to something more by Monday week.
Definitely. And also, guys, I'm struggling to see the comments here at the moment, so hopefully Ben can jump on, but I've got them in the comments feed here on my messenger. So Milan Bogdanovic is gone. Hi, Jim and Joel. Can I ask, would that paperwork help me as a sole trader to try and claim some compensation from the government as a sole trader for my own? So he's an independent operator.
Yes, absolutely. We're helping our own people. We'll help you as well. As far as I'm concerned, in the industry, we're together. I mean, maybe we're competitors, but there's lots of work around for good people. So we're on your side. We'll do everything we can. We'll actually not only provide you with all the advice for free, which I've paid for, but if you need help and advice on how to go about it, we'll do our best to give it to you. People can email me, jim@jims.net, and I will do everything I can to help you to get compensation. Look, I can't guarantee it'll be successful. I really can't, because the state government's going to fight us, but we're going to push very hard to try and get compensation for you. And that's not our own franchisees, it's anybody in this position.
And you've done a lot of media as well. I know, just cutting in here, a lot of media as well, still coming up. You're a bit of a celebrity now, and I know we've got some things on the work while moving, hopefully, that we can get you on a few panels and stuff.
The public opinion has really shifted. It's quite astonishing. When it first came out, there was a lot of opposition to the things I said. These days, overwhelmingly, people stop me in the street and say, "Good on you, Jim." It takes me an extra 2 hours a day to clear my e-box, and I don't mind. I'm grateful for it, even though I often work pretty long hours these days. But the people are so positive. They just say, "Thank you. You're speaking up for us." They're so appreciative, and who else is going to stand up for small businesses like ours, like the cleaners and gardeners and pool care and fencers and handyman and all these businesses that serve Victorians and provide many people's lives. I mean, they're desperate. They've got nobody to speak for them. And so it's been wonderful. Even actually, we had some people from the council workers from Caulfield Council actually wrote to me and said, "Look, we're really with you guys. It's so crazy. We support you. Yes, we can work, but you should be able to work too." Even council workers are saying that. It's coming from all over.
And I've got all the questions have come through finally now, so we've got a heap there. I'm going to try and rip through some comments and questions now. So Mike O'Reilly's gone to The Misinformation Age is the book Jim's referring to, The Misinformation Age.
Yeah, I don't think it is that actually. I think it's something else, but
okay.
It's a wonderful book. I should actually have brought it with me. I didn't think about it.
Then Jim Mee's gone here. Can I start Jim's lawyering? I'm about to get admitted! Exclamation mark.
Yeah, we'd love to do Jim's legal. It's great. It's one of the ones I'd most like to do actually, because we come across a lot of lawyers in the space of the franchising, and there's two kinds of lawyers. You've got some lawyers who are really genuinely decent human beings who'll do everything they can to help a client, and there are others that are the worst rip-off merchants you could possibly imagine. We had a case where a franchisee was going to take action to get their franchise fee back. They actually approached me, and I initially said, "Yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you a hand." So unfortunately, what they did is went to see a lawyer instead, and the lawyer then launched a lawsuit against not only the franchisor but against me, and they had a good case. So what we did is I just went ahead and did the normal things, and then we got to mediation, and we settled at mediation. They got their money back. I put an extra $5,000 in just to help them a bit. But their legal fees, $100,000. That's what they pay. $100,000, and the franchise was $35,000. So this psychopath of a lawyer. Now, I would like to have a system where all the legal work was surveyed like we do, make sure everybody who has used one of the Jim's lawyers actually gets surveyed. Did the lawyer help you? And that has to be done. And then we get decent, caring, good people. I had a family court lawyer years ago, and she was the most wonderful person you could imagine. She would lie awake at night agonizing about my problems, my concerns, because I was cut off from my children. Some lawyers are the best people on earth, and some are the worst. I'd like to have an organization. So if you're interested in Jim's legal, yes, for sure. And I reckon we can give very good, cost-effective help using things like template letters. So instead of something costing you, like $1,000, it can be done for a couple of hundred. Why not? That's what the internet's good for. Let's charge people really fairly and give good legal advice. And we might say to them, listen, don't fight this. You're going to lose. It's going to cost you too much. Here we are, $300. No, this is my advice. Don't fight it. In other words, I'm going to look at your interest rather than the money. Love to do Jim's lawyers.
Jim up with Jim's lawyers, Jim at jims.net. And we got 92 people now watching, which is great. So make sure you share the feed and comment. So we're catching up to the comments now. So I got one here from Daniel Moore, which says, Jim's Fresh is great. Had 2 orders now, which is fantastic. The fruit and veggies from Jim's Home Fresh. So Daniel Moore just saying, giving a good review there for the Jim's Home Fresh guys as well. Then
we love them in the office too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we can get back in there, hopefully we can start ordering them again. And then Matthew Dwyer's gone, hi, Joel and Jim. I know the ladies in the call center have a whole lot of service codes to learn, but was wondering, would it be possible to create another mow/vacant block/acreage? I do a lot of block slashing over summer and know we currently have mow/slash, but this code gets used for residents who also haven't mowed in a long time. I want to create a zone that is much bigger than I would normally service, just to specialize in vacant block slashing only.
All I can say, Matt, send it to me, my email address, because you email me often enough, and I'll take it up with the division. The thing about service codes is that we've got to try and prune them a bit. If you have 100 different service codes, in effect, they become meaningless and useless. So we've got to make sure that we use the most useful ones that are going to be used often. Otherwise, the poor girls have to go through this vast number. And also customers, when they're trying to book jobs, it becomes meaningless to them. So
there's like 650 or something. There's like 650 or something, I think, in total that girls have to know. So don't go angry at them if they do ever make a mistake.
We should prune them, Matt. We should be looking at the ones that aren't get used much and take some of them out because it just makes things too hard.
Then George Lannis has gone, Jim, you're a gentleman, mate, fighting for your franchisees and independent, which is great. Then Steve Walkins, let me go here as well. Polizoi Stavrakis from Jim's Fencing. It's the Polizoi. So he's gone, hi, Jim and Joel. Jim, what do you think of this 6-month extension that has just been passed in Parliament?
Oh, it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling. I wrote an open letter to all the crossbenchers, and most of them are on site, actually. The Darren Hinch party was fantastic. A lot of them wrote back and said we're fighting it, but he managed to get 3 people. I don't know whether he bribed them or threatened them or what. I guess the state government, you can give people ministries and all kinds of things and perks and secretaries and who knows what he can offer them to get them on side. But he basically bribed his way to become dictator for 6 months. I think it's appalling. There's really no control in this guy. I mean, what's the difference between Victoria and Russia? They're both elected dictatorships, really. The only difference, really, if you think about it, well, it's true, isn't it, though? I mean, who controls the premier and what he can do? Who can hold him to account? Nobody can. There's no Parliament can't control it because he can bribe enough to get on side. He doesn't face election for 2 more years. His own party is completely cowed. He controls the money supply for the unions and stuff. Nobody can stand up to this guy. He's basically an elected dictator. The only one difference is, and this is a very important one, is the media. And the media have done a fantastic job of holding him to account. And I take my hats off to them. Every time I see them, I just say, thanks, guys. You're the heroes. You're the people that are actually standing up to this bloke on behalf of ordinary citizens. What he's doing is dreadful.
Absolutely. The tide is turning as from the start. It's slowly turning. And that doctor's letter, I think, which you mentioned before, was very, very, very powerful because constantly he's saying my, health advice and whatever. And you've got these health experts banding together saying, well, this is what ours says, which I think is important.
Yeah, his health advice is whatever he thinks is right, and whatever suits his political situation. I mean, let's face it. Everybody knows why council workers can work even in groups and individuals can't. It's not because individuals are more of a threat. They don't pay union fees. Come on, everybody knows that. There's no. He doesn't even try to pretend that there's any reason behind it except political machinations. And the more people he can throw out of business, and the more people have to join vast corporations and pay union dues, the better for him. That's the way he sees the world.
And we've got that video coming out tomorrow, Jim, which Ben has done for us with a couple of your questions and the premiere intertwined, so keep an eye for that one. So we've got a couple of questions here. I'm catching up from the start again. So Haydar's tuning in, which is great. A lot of people tuning in. Dave McDonald says, happy 80th anniversary, guys. Busy in the bush cockatoo proofing antennas. 80th anniversary. Then he says, Eric Jenkins,
80th anniversary of what?
Ask Jim. They're saying ask Jim. They're all giving us congratulations on that.
Hang on a minute. 80th anniversary is yearly. I don't think you call it a week anniversary.
Yeah.
What's a weekly? 80th week. 80th year. We haven't been doing Jim's Ask Jim for 80 years.
Gee whiz, 80 years, could you imagine? Gee. And Eric Jenkins has gone, hi, Jim. Very interesting to find that at least one of the local police station in the lockdown area has allowed a private contractor to come and do their gardens. This person is not employed by the council, but a private contractor.
Yeah, well, one of the problems with this whole system is, of course, nobody knows the rules. We've had one of our franchisees, John, on the phone for 4.5 hours to bureaucrats trying to get some explanation of what you can and can't do. And of course, the trouble is the bureaucrats don't know, politicians don't know. We know it's all in the mind of the Premier, and he'll change his mind anytime he wishes to. So there's no consistency. There's no rule of law. It's ruled by whim. I was reading about the Emperor Caligula. I'm watching the film The Roman Empire on Netflix about the Emperor Caligula. And he reminded me of something. I don't think I want to say who it was, but this arbitrary power thing, it really rung a bell somehow with somebody. I don't know who.
Caligula. Yeah, I won't say Caligula.
Well, he got assassinated after 4 years, so I guess we can always hope for not necessarily a physical assassination, but some sort of a political assassination would be very much desired. Yeah, I'm not asking anybody to knock off the Premier. It's not my preferred way of doing business.
Definitely. Write letters, people. Write letters, emails. That's the preferred method.
Yeah.
Paul Sanders
lots of letters and social media and everything. Yeah, go on.
Exactly right. Then Paul Sanders gone 80. Wow, well done, Joel and Jim. Great initiative, and thank you to Jim for making yourself so available as always. It's greatly appreciated. That's nice, Paul. Thanks for that. Appreciate you tuning in. Everyone tunes in. Then Christian Canavo's gone, you're on 60 Minutes now, Jim. So if they only 60 Minutes is on tonight, you've done something for them. Someone's saying you're on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Or is that like a throw to a story that's going to be a...
I get confused as to who I'm being interviewed by, actually, after a time. So far today, I've done 2 radio interviews and Channel 9, which is probably 60 Minutes. And I was going to do another one for Sky, but that's got put off. So, yes, I've had a busy day.
Well, 60 Minutes is going to be pretty good. Glad. That's a pretty prime time one, and we've been in talks with another one today.
I am pretty sure it's going to be favourable too. The media has really done a brilliant job. They're very much on side, just from the questions and the comments and stuff. I mean, who can justify this? Who can justify the thing about the fact that sole operators can't do jobs that group people? The council gardeners don't agree. Nobody. I've never heard anybody defend this. I've never heard one person say a reason why this is the case. Nobody's even tried. The Premier, health officers, police, nobody can defend it. It's completely indefensible.
Then Petrus has gone, has the government given you any response to your letters yet, Jim?
Not a scrap. Not even a single word from the Premier. This is the guy who consults so much with business leaders. I'm a really consultative guy. Oh, yeah. Tell me another one. Moon is made of green cheese, isn't it, Premier? Come on.
Then Eric Jenkins has gone, Joel, you've never got to the question last week, but what have you done with Wade? I haven't seen Wade in the comments. I don't know what's been happening. I know Jim, he emails Jim a lot, so I don't know what's been going on there.
Well, the last time he contacted me, he said if I can find you a dog wash person, I might buy a franchise. You can't hold it over his way. Buy a franchise for your own sake, not because I'm going to do something for you.
Correct. That's the key point, Wade. You've done your due diligence, mate. We're telling you now how good it is. Please come and do something with it, I reckon, when we can. Okay, we're going to go into the questions here, which is great. So keep putting them on the comments through there, guys, as well, which is fantastic as well. I'm just trying to wait for this comment feed to refresh. Okay, so we've got a question here from David regarding a cleaning one, which has been answered here. One for the cleaners who are watching, Hader. How do I clean this black baked on the stuff around the electric hot plate? one of my favorite hot plate. It doesn't seem to come off no matter what we do. Do you clean the oven at home or the cooktop there, Jim?
Nah, I just I do actually clean things. I do clean. Look, it's part of my job because in our house, Lee and my daughter Jasmine do the cooking, and the rest of us do the washing up. So I do clean these things. But I guess the answer to I would say is try not to get baked stuff on the cook pot in the first place. It's hard to get off. Sorry, I
Absolutely.
wouldn't know, and I wouldn't like to say too because the cleaners are more expert in this kind of thing. The trouble with if you use the wrong chemicals, you can cause terrible damages. They use the wrong chemicals on services, and you get a $5,000 claim for damage. So it's very important to talk to the cleaning guys. They know how to do these things, and if not, sorry, you just as the franchisee is asking.
That was
If you don't
David
know,
from Jim's Antennas. Yeah.
oh right, okay. Ask the cleaning division. They'll tell you how. They use these enzyme-based stuff, which is really, really effective and doesn't damage anything. They know what they're doing. They have
Yeah,
very strong recommendations. In fact, if they use the wrong
absolutely.
chemicals, then it's like a $5,000 excess if you cause damage. So you have to use the right stuff.
Absolutely. So we're getting the questions here, guys, which are currently coming through. I keep having to refresh my feed. They keep coming through. So Dave McDonald, Jim, when can I buy a Jim's dead parrot? From Dave McDonald. I'm going to buy a Jim's dead parrot.
Yeah, I've just been going through the Monty Python. It's so funny. I love Monty Python. It's also kid on the cartoons, but it's just great. Dead parrot sketch. Yeah.
Then Brett Goodlet's gone here. Brett from Pest Control in Ipswich, Queensland. We live on 40 acres, and I'm offering any Jim's franchises and families to come and visit and stay and camp whenever they need. We need to help everyone, and this is something that your kids may look forward to. That's a good thing. Stay strong and always remember to ask for help in need. That's great from Brett as an offer from Queensland. That's awesome.
Well, that is wonderful, Brett. Just send it to me, Jim at jims.net, and we'll pass it around to probably the people in Queensland, I suppose, mostly, but just let it be known. That's a great offer. Thank you.
Absolutely. Then Dave McDonald says Singapore has had, was it 56,901 cases, yet only 27 deaths. How come we have so many and have done this so wrong? Question mark.
Well, one of the reasons for this is it's how you count the deaths. So, for example, and this is a case I know about personally, somebody sent their aged, dying parent to hospital to die of cancer. You know, they're going to be dead within a month. All right. While they were there, they caught COVID. Okay. And they said cause of death, COVID. But it's not. They were dying of cancer. Oh, no, don't you want $25,000? So what they're doing is they're deliberately distorting the figures to make it seem more deadly than it is. It's bad, but unless you're in bad health or over 70, it's not that serious a disease. And what people don't recognize too is that when you have these lockdowns, it's not just a financial problem; it's a mental health problem. Suicides are going through the roof. It's terrible what's happening, and people are dying because of mental health issue and alcoholism and so forth, and abuse, and all these things are happening. There's a terrible cost to these lockdowns. We've got to balance it against. You've got to balance the slowing of the infection against the damage it does if you crack down too hard. And people,
My girlfriend's a nurse.
It's not just people. It's not just suicide that's the problem too. People are dying of heart disease and cancer and stuff because they're not getting treatment, because they're not getting vaccinations, because they're so locked down that they don't get the medical treatment they need. That's causing all kinds of deaths. You don't see those on the ledger. So in actual fact, it's really a moot point whether they're saving any lives at all. We may well be losing more people to other forms of illness and so forth than we're saving from infection.
My girlfriend's a nurse, and she was saying to me that it's tripled the suicide attempts, and the people who are taking pill overdoses and things like that have tripled since this whole started. So, yeah, it's quite interesting to hear from the stories from the nurses and stuff like that. Warren May's gone here. Hi guys, love the show. Stick it to them grubby politicians. What is the hourly rate we should be striving for to survive with our local cleaning business? It's a good question, Warren.
We always, with Jimmy's people, we recommend at least $60 an hour. If somebody comes to me with a franchise idea, the first question I'd ask them is, what hourly rate can a reasonable, not just normal person make? If you can't make $60 an hour, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in being cheap either. We always try and aim for the quality end of the market, and there's plenty of market. I mean, we've got there's probably something like 4,000 gardening contractors in Victoria. We've got like 600. So we're not that much of the market. That's in our best division. So I'd suggest that kind of rate you work towards. And when you do a quote, now when you're starting off and you don't know what you're doing, like people who start off mowing a lawn, they might take an hour and a half to do it. But it would take me 25 minutes to mow a typical lawn. It's another 5-10 minutes to do the edges. So on that basis, if I'm charging $50, even like for traveling, I'm making decent money. But you ought to know, you ought to be working out from people that you know how long a job should take. Find somebody who's an expert, which is obviously easy in a franchise, but even if you're not, you can find somebody in the industry. Find out how long it takes them to do a certain job and then set your hourly rates accordingly. But if you can't make $60 an hour, well, it's not really much of a business, is it? I mean, honestly, because that means to say after costs, you're probably making around about $100,000 a year, which is a decent income. It's above average. But then you're in business for yourself. You should be making good income. You got no superannuation. You deserve to make good money.
No, good point, Sam. Thanks for that question, Warren. Then Shannon
Good
Macy's
question.
gone. When is Jim going to run for jail? I don't know what that's in relation to, Shannon. I know there's a bit of heat online sometimes from Twitter saying, you're putting people's lives and stuff above and you're in blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, maybe
Well,
that's an
the
interesting one,
Premier would
Shannon.
love to see me in jail, but he's not quite got the power yet to crack down on the scene. He's not quite Putin or whatever that guy in China is called. Xi
Oh,
Jinping.
Xi Jinping or something.
I
Yeah,
know.
Jinping or Jinping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Then Peter Wolsey, this is a bit cheeky from Peter. He's gone, how much hair has Jim lost in the past few weeks? It's a bit cheeky.
Hey, listen, I can't afford to lose too much. There's not a lot left. If I went to a barber, he'd charge me a search and find charge, I reckon. Gets a bit more. I
Jane
don't feel
Rogers has
my
gone
age,
in.
but I certainly look my age. That's for sure.
You definitely run around a few people half your age, Jim's, if you're a fitness routine. Don't worry about that. Jane Rogers has
I
gone
do.
here. These deaths are not all COVID related, saying what you before. Okay. Now here we got one. Now here's one. We always read out things in transparency. We're not avoiding anyone. So Labby's gone here. Hi Jim, why are you avoiding giving me a refund for the security system you've installed since you can't resolve my issue of receiving multiple notifications when tripwires are activated? Instead, you complain and cry about Premier's Daniel Andrews' decision of locking down Melbourne. So this is from a customer regarding Jim Security called Labby.
The only case that I know of that's come to me lately was one where there's something wrong. What we've offered to do, and this is not me, of course, it's the franchisee after I got involved, offered to actually take to remove the system and just basically refund the just pay for the cost of their system. They didn't get their labour cost back, but they gave the cost of the system back. So that's one particular case because there's no reason why we can see the system's been checked. It works perfectly. The franchisee says it's something to do with the franchisor, something to do with the connection system, the way that it communicates, and that's where the issue is because the system itself has been checked out and works perfectly. So basically, he said, look, I'll take it out. I'll give you a full refund for the system, but not my labour costs because it's really I did nothing wrong. So that's the situation. If it's something different, if it's another case, then jim@jims.net. But as I said, it's not basically me because obviously the franchisee is the one that's got a refund, not me personally. The only time we do it, we have a thing called a warranty fund. So if a franchisee's left and there's an issue, and we can't get the money from the franchisee, then we'll actually pay it from this fund, and that's paid for by franchisees when they first join. But if there's a genuine problem, we will always fix it. There's a bit of a problem with the sound here. I don't know what system we're using, but there's a disconnect.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. So we're cutting each other off. I'm trying to sort of stop to make sure I know when you're finished. Last week it was okay. This week's a bit scratchy for some reason. So there's around a 1 second delay between me and you. So I'll try and pause and for you to go.
We're using something different, vMix, and why don't we use Zoom? That doesn't seem to have these problems.
Yeah, Ben's computer's not set up to do the Zoom thing, whereas Jake's is. So Jake's back on next week, so we won't have these issues next week.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good system.
So sorry, Shannon before regarding, he says, not jail, when is Jim running for office? So not when Jim running for jail, says when is Jim running for office, the question we always keep getting every week.
I don't know. I'd be a very good politician. I'm so socially inept. My wife says I'm borderline Asperger's, so I can't remember names or faces either. So I don't know. I'd be very good as a politician. look, I'm not that cynical. I think there's some pretty decent people around there. I know Senator Sarah Henderson's been helping us out with all kinds of things, and there's a lot of good people in politics. I just don't think they happen to be heading the Victorian government. That's all.
Has anyone
But
approached you yet? Because I saw that we saw you on Sky News today, where they a guy in Queensland said you're doing a good job and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone has party approached you or anything like that.
no, nobody has. I wouldn't do it anyway. I mean, I don't think I have the right skills for it. I'm too outspoken. I mean, I answer questions outrageously. You ask me what I think, and I'll tell you. The politicians don't do that, do they? I don't think I'd last. They go for the bad thing. You know, a politician will talk for 100 hours, and they'll pick something out that you can hammer them with. Well, you know, you'd have volumes of stuff to hammer me with. I'm sure I'd say something wrong all the time. So I don't think I'd be good at it.
Now Petrus has
I'd
gone
like to see good people. Yeah, go on.
Sorry. Now Petrus has gone. Hi, Jim and Joel. Business related question. Where are things sitting on Jim's physio? I heard it mentioned a while back to an earlier podcast earlier in the week. I have a friend in Southeast Queensland who could be a strong candidate to spearhead things up here. What's the next step?
Email jim@jims.net and we'll look into it. We can move very fast. It'll take a few months to get a new division, but Jim's physio would be a great one. We'd love to get into the health area. We'd love to do Jim's physio, optometry, chiropractic, everything. It'd be a great one to do. So yes, just contact me and we'll see. Look, what we've got to find out first of all is, have you got a good business? Do you know what you're doing? Have you got a good business model? Because starting a new division is very challenging. But you know, we'd love to do it. We really would. And that's how divisions start. You know, you look at something like antennas or building inspections or all these really successful ones. They started with one person. Somebody came and said, "I've got an idea for a business." And you know, I know Andrew Park started the Jim's Antennas, and he was a franchisee with Mr. Antennas, paying them half his income. He came to us. He's a multi-millionaire. He sold out for, well, I can tell you, 2.8 million. That's how much he got for it, which is good on him.
Then Peter Woolsey's gone, that doctor's letter, you need to do some research on the people behind those letters, though. So Peter's saying maybe research the people who wrote the letter. We have here Andy Stewart. If it's all about health, why has not one public servant lost their job? Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they mostly work from home anyway. Look, my daughter is training as a doctor, and she says that the medical establishment is actually rabid about a lot of this stuff. They said it's not helping with infection. It's the wrong attitude. It's extreme. They're ignoring mental health issues. They're ignoring the other health issues. Doctors are actually increasingly speaking out against the way this has been handled. It's like there's only one thing, infection only, and he's ignoring the terrible damage it's doing in other ways, not just financial, but health-wise.
Absolutely. And someone here, where is he? Matt Rogers has gone, hi, Jim, move to Adelaide. Laughing emoji. After this says move to Adelaide.
I wish we were somewhere else at the moment. I can tell you what, it's terrible here. It's so dreadful, and what's really infuriating about it is that the guy who caused this, the one man who caused it, is the one who's making our life a living hell and doesn't listen to anybody or have any concern for the suffering he's inflicting on us. And he caused it. He's breach of quarantine. It's absolutely clear. Daniel Andrews is Darth Vader of Victoria.
And Chrissy Malone's going to go. Jim Australia's behind you on this, which is thanks to that, Chrissy. I know Jim gets a lot of messages of support, which is great. Keep sending them through as well. And then we've got one here as well. Wade's back on as well. Then Peter Woolsey going, Wade used to be the official record comment holder, wasn't he? Well, I don't know if he will be anymore until he keeps jumping in there as well. And then Dave McDonald says, hey, Jim, the new Jim's Antennas face masks look pretty snazzy, very comfortable. And we've got our Jim's ones, which are coming too. I know they've been delivered to your home.
Yeah, I'm not in favour of face masks. I must say that's one thing we can all do to limit the chance of infection that doesn't put anybody out of a job. I think that's a very important issue. Let's look at the things that are effective, that don't cause so much suffering, and rather than the things that are ineffective and cause massive problems.
Absolutely. So we've got a few people jumping in the comments. I'm just trying to refresh my feed. So Vera's gone here. Vera, I just want to say thank you to Jim for his help today. So that's from Vera, from Jim's Dog Wash, I think Vera is. I know they've got
Terrible story, Vera. I feel for you, Vera. It's an awful story, and she was basically being threatened with eviction from her house and stuff. And we've given a little bit of help, but her franchisor and Sharon has also been helping, which I really thank them for and appreciate it. It's awful, and it's one of many terrible stories that I hear all the time. And just I hope, Vera, you don't mind me saying this because people know who you are. But the problem with Vera is that she's on a bridging visa, so she's got no income. So when her livelihood is taken away by the state government, she's got nothing. She's got nowhere to buy food. She's got nowhere to pay rent. She's got nothing to live on. It's an appalling situation, and there are so many that are like that.
Then Samir's gone here. Hi, Jims. How does the franchisor help to make the area strong? Do they have big contracts to give to the franchisee if they suffer to get jobs, especially the clean division? From Samir as one of the comments.
Well, franchisors will basically find you work. Most franchisees are pretty busy, Samir. I don't know of any who aren't, apart from not being allowed to work. The only divisions that have been badly affected would be building inspections and, to some extent, test and tag. Even cleaning had some problems earlier on, but some of the cleaning guys are making more money than they did. See, the thing that your franchisor is good for is not necessarily saying, here's work, go and do it, like a boss. It's saying, here's a job that you can do, say, sanitizing houses for COVID, making them safe and clean, and you can charge $99 and do it in half an hour. This is the chemical to use. This is how you approach it. This is how you sell it. And then they'll suggest things like, okay, when you go and do a job, upsell or look for referrals. In other words, their job is not so much to say, I'm going to give you all the jobs you want so you don't have to do anything. Our job is to say, here's a way to help you to run your own business. Now, giving you leads is part of that, of course, but it's not all of it.
Then Peter Woolsey's gone with a comment here, which I find interesting. I don't know if this is true. He says suicides are actually down in response to what we were talking about before. I don't know if that's the case, though, Jim, is it? I don't think it is at all.
No. Look, it's difficult because they're fudging the figures and like COVID deaths are being put up. But I talked to, there's a guy, Gerald from, who's been here 3 times to actually set up a interview in my front yard. He's the cameraman for Channel 7, actually. And we were making jokes last time. I said, I should have you a labelled parking spot because he's so often. But he says all the time they're being called to suicides. It's just like an epidemic. It's happening all over the place. He just said, oh, another suicide, another suicide, another suicide. He sees it so much. Peter, I don't know where you're getting your figures from, but everything I've heard is it's way up. Suicides are up, attempts are up, drug overdoses are up, alcoholism is up, abuse is up. By every measure, we're doing worse and worse and worse.
Then Wade Aston's gone, you haven't got the muscles in display, Joel. What's going on? Well, I can't go to the gym, Wade, so I've got no muscles. I'm wasting away. I'm going to finish gym soon. I need to get to the gym again. I want them to be open. Okay, let's keep going on here as well. So we just went down here to the questions. They're all coming through.
Get a rowing machine. That's great. Unlike the one I smashed up, my rowing machine I use is really, really good. So I spend 20 minutes jogging, and I spend another 10 minutes on the rowing machine. I take walks if I can. And I work on, So just you can keep active. Come on, Joel.
I know, I've been shocking actually. I've had Rachel Manor checking me. So have you done exercise? And I'm like, no, I'm too busy. I've got stuff on. So I've got to really make time for it. Then we've got JD's gone here. What is Jim's advice for the 5th of the September protest? Have you heard about that? The 5th of September protest?
Yeah, I don't support it. I understand it and I appreciate it, but I just don't think you should do anything that genuinely causes infections potentially to go up. I think one of the mistakes that they made is allowing those Black Lives Matter protests to go, and they shouldn't have done that because it conveys the wrong message. I totally understand, but let's do the things let's take the precautions that really have an effect on infection. Without doing the things that have no effect. That's all I'd say. So no, I wouldn't support it. Not at all. Write letters.
We've got one here.
Phone people. Yeah. Talk to your MP. Pass my letters around. Do anything you can to breed support. Use social media. Use every avenue to put pressure on the government, pressure on the MPs. Talk to the media. Do whatever you can, but don't go out and do anything which could make the infection worse, because people are dying from it.
Harass them on Twitter is my key. They are very active on Twitter, MP. So harass them on Twitter and add them with Jim's letter and stuff, which people have been doing. So keep sharing those if you want to go to his profile. Then Jim's Mobile Tyres going here. Hi, Joel and Jim. Can you please explain how the online Jim's franchisee training works for new franchisees?
It's basically pretty simple. We just run the whole thing on videos, and there's feedback sessions as well. So, look, it's not as good as being there because you don't get the informal relationships, and I don't get a chance to meet franchisees directly and so forth. But it's look, it's a heck of a lot better than nothing, and then you can get in on the road training and so forth. Yeah, we really look forward to seeing you back again, the franchisees. And I must say, if you do online training, and any time in the future you'd like to come and do any part of the course in Melbourne, once we're open for business, there'll be no cost. We won't charge you for the course. We won't charge you for lunch. Nothing. If you want accommodation, you have to pay for that. But we'd love to see you. I like to meet I try to meet every new franchisee at least once. I try to have a face-to-face conversation because I know if I've met you, you're more likely to feel confident to ring me. Somebody actually rang me today, a franchisee, and he'd never met me. He'd never actually seen me because he'd come through in this new thing, and he was very nervous to ring me. But I said, no, please do contact me. And and I was able to help him and give him some advice and so forth. So it was good. But yeah, we'd love to see you. We really would. And if any franchisee anywhere in the future, once the plague's gone, you come to Melbourne, drop in at the office and just say hello. Very happy to meet you.
Absolutely. And Peter Woolsey's going, good to hear non-government questions. Well, Jim's sort of, that's the only questions we've sort of been really getting. So we'll try and answer a few non-government ones here. Okay, so here's one from Jane Rogers. Can you be a franchisee in one division while being a franchisor in another? Would you recommend this or would it be too much? Good question.
No, absolutely. No reason why not. And in fact, it does happen. Usually, if you're a franchisor in a division, you want to be a franchisee in that division because apart from anything else, you're going to pay fees to yourself, which is better than paying to somebody else. But there's no reason. There's no legal reason against it. Not at all. And it does happen too. People often is franchisees from one division who tend to become the franchisors in a cleaning franchisee becomes a franchisor in window cleaning, for example, but usually in the end they'll tend to sell their cleaning franchise and focus on being in their own division.
Then Derek Spice is tuning in. So g'day, Derek, laying lots of viewers. So thanks for tuning in, Derek, and everyone who watches every week. It's fantastic, the numbers, which are great. Then Wade Aston's gone, your bloody Windows 98. Someone get Bill Gates on the phone for Jim's computer. They're saying, yeah, Jim's computer is like a Mitsubishi, bloody old. I don't think it's his computer. We went right the week before. It's this vMix program. We do use Zoom normally, so it's not to do with Jim's fault. It's our tech fault here, guys. Then Heather Campbell's gone, you're too honest for being a
That's right. I wouldn't make a good politician.
Yeah, and then Heather Campbell says, you're too honest to be an aspiring politician. Okay, here we go as well. And then Wade Aston's gone, here we go. He says, don't get too friendly with Sarah Hanson Young. She got an episode of Sea Patrol mixed up for a real life border force today. I don't know what that's in relation to.
No,
do you know what that's in relation
to? Sorry,
this
is Sarah Henderson. She's a senator for Victoria Liberal Party. She helped me with some advice on this act, the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008, which we're using to attack the government. That's come from her.
And here's an interesting one from Felicia, who's gone, not to mention the more people that are out of work, the more people rely on welfare. Then they will further the no jab, no pay manipulation that was brought in and force people into the vaccination if there is one. That's a comment from Felicia.
Well, I'd hesitate to get involved in this because I know the anti-vaxxers don't like me and stuff, but I favour any reasonable attempt to control the epidemic, and I'm not going to be more precise than that. I'm not a libertarian in that sense. I think if we can do something to control the epidemic, we should do it. The problem I have in doing things that cause immense suffering that don't control the epidemic.
And we've got some good questions coming in comments. And another one saying, when are you sponsoring the A-League? Well, another one from Luke Gibbons. Dave McDonald says, we get a little bit of work from our franchisor. We got a contract worth $100,000 in 1 year doing NBM installs. That was a great year. We cleared $3,000 a week for 3 days work. That's fantastic in the antennas and security division.
There is.
Which is really good. Now, one from Mustafa. This is a good question.
Sorry, I must say we do work on that kind of thing. We've got a contracts department actually run by Haydar, clean divisional, and we've picked up millions of dollars worth of work for our franchisees. So we certainly do chase the big tenders and stuff if we get them and then farm the work out. Absolutely. Yeah, go
The
on.
Mustafa's gone here. Hi, do you guys sell customers on a guaranteed percentage of income over a certain period at all?
No, no, we don't. If generally what happens is you buy a business with a customer base in it, which guarantees a certain number of customers and certain value, because customers are usually on a regular basis, especially things like cleaning and mowing and dog wash. So you can buy a business that's already got a customer base, but it's not based on that kind of guarantee, just based on the customers. Because apart from anything else, the income can vary during the year. So you might buy a business which is a mowing ground which has 65 customers, and in the springtime it's done every 2 weeks, and the winter it's done every 3 weeks. So the income is not always the same.
Hmm. That's a good question, first. So thanks for that one. If you're interested in it, please put an inquiry in as well. Okay, let's go down some questions here which are coming through. Petrus is going, what is the total number of franchisees across Australia, across divisions within the gyms group?
It's a bit hard to tell with so many suspended right now. We're just under 4,000 at present, of which I think about 1,800 are mowing. Next is the cleaning division, about 800 plus, all the way down to a few divisions we've only got one franchisee in, which we're trying to build. So it's very varied. The biggest divisions are mowing, then cleaning divisions, then test and tag, which got about 180, then and tennis about 140.
Hmm.
Dog wash is probably similar. Um, well, pool care is about 120 now, I think. Fencing's about 140. So there's a few big ones around about that level, and they'd all be substantial businesses in their own right, even without us. And then you go down to things like skip bins and pest control and all the rest.
Absolutely.
Oh,
The
building
Milan's gone here,
inspections. I
Jim and
forgot to
Joel.
say that. Yeah, go on.
160, I think, building inspections across Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, it's the biggest in the country. I shouldn't forget them. It's been a huge success. That started by one guy who's still running it, and he's launched a second division, hazardous waste, which is also doing very well.
So big demand for hazardous material with all the removal of
Mm.
asbestos and this, all these things like methamphetamine cleans, all these rental properties. They do clean a lot of dangers and stuff. Milan's got here, Jim and Joel. Can I ask,
Very.
how's the franchisees? Yep.
No, I just say very, very good money in that too. It's one of the top earners. I mean, they have all the
Mm.
safety gear and stuff, and they do it very, very well. But it is very lucrative. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, guys. We'll try this sort of by next week. We're definitely having Zoom again next week. Milan's got here, Jim and Joel. Can I ask, how's the franchisees going in their quest in maintenance on gardens? As I have been getting plenty of work doing grass cutting and other things, and not abiding by anything as I have bills to pay. So I think Milan's breaking the rules, but he's to pay. He's saying.
Look, I don't blame you for breaking the rules. I know some people are out there doing it. Many of our competitors are doing it. I frankly think that if the Premier doesn't release things, you're going to find mass civil disobedience. I just don't think people are going to put up with it, especially when these rules are so senseless. We're not going to advise anybody to do it. Um, we might give a certain amount of help in terms of if they get sued, if they get someone tries to find them in challenging the case or something like that. But we're not telling people to break the law. But I think it's going to happen. I don't think people will put up with this kind of stuff much longer.
Then Dave McDonald says, Jim, can we bring staff down for training, and what would it cost for the training?
You can, and we'd love you to, but it's a half cost. You just pay half of what anybody else would pay if they're your staff. Same thing with the spouse too.
Take them up on that goffer, guys. If you got staff, definitely bring them down. I don't think we see it enough, do we?
Yeah. No, we'd love to too. I mean, staff are great. We really want to encourage our franchisees to put on staff as much as possible because we're knocking back nearly 200,000 leads a year. So if you can put on workers and take up some of the unserviced work, it's very good for us and it's good for you. And it's a great opportunity to build a major business. Look, one thing I always say is that people underestimate the potential of what we do. There's a book called, I've spoken to before, called The Millionaire Next Door, about American millionaires. And people think these guys are all tech wizards and lawyers and accountants and stuff, but they're typically people like us. They're typically gardeners and cleaners and people who run these kinds of businesses, and they start off and put workers on and so forth and build major businesses and become very, very wealthy. And a lot of my franchisees, either as franchisees or franchisors, are now multi-millionaires. I'm very proud of that.
I've actually downloaded that book on your recommendation. I'm looking forward to it. It's a very, very well-known
Yeah.
book.
It's funny actually. It gives one particular description of how they set out this food for the for these millionaires who were coming to give these to talk to them, and there was all this caviar and really expensive food and champagne and stuff like that, and they brought them in. None of them wanted it. They all just wanted beer and hot dogs and stuff. They had very ordinary tastes. So all the journalists end up eating all the posh stuff. But actually, it
That's
shows too,
awesome.
because one of the things about it is that you don't have to live in an extravagant lifestyle. You know, I don't have to wear expensive suits. I can just dress up in any old thing. And I wear my clothes till they fall to pieces, actually. My wife complains about it. Drive a 10-year-old car and live in an ordinary house. I mean, what more do you need? I'd much rather put my efforts into my business and things that I care about, like my research project. So yeah, it's a good thing. Whereas if you're going to be a lawyer or a hotshot investment, you've got to have real fancy suits and drive the latest BMW and be seen in all the posh restaurants, eating completely disgusting food which costs a fortune. I mean, drinking bottles of wine that costed none of that garbage. Something I love. They did a competition about wine. Now I don't drink wine anyway, but this is interesting. They did a competition which is blind tasting, and they got all these different types of wine, ranging up to $1,000 bottle stuff, and they did blind test to see which is the best. And the one that came out the winner was $6 from Coles. So wonderful joke against these wine snobs. I thought I love that story.
Doesn't surprise me.
In the supermarket.
Doesn't surprise me at all. We had a question up before from Peter Woolsey.
Yes, God.
Sorry, we had a question before from Peter Woolsey, which says, do any of your kids wear the gym shirts around the home?
No, not really. One of my daughters hardly speaks to me at the moment because she's upset about the fact that I'm taking on the Premier. So, but anyway. Yes, they actually. My kids would never admit to being my children. They don't when they're at school. And they would never tell anybody who their father is. They're not so much embarrassed. They just don't want to skite about it. But it's just not the way we do things.
Yeah, then we got a question there from Peter Woolsey, which says Joel looks like he needs gym skip bins, bloody removal bins, rubbish bins behind him are full. I don't know if you can see on my screen there, Jim, but I've got a recycling bin in there, so I need their waste
management. I can see just in the corner there. You do, yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. We are seeing a few gym skip bins in our street, actually. I know they can still operate in Victoria, which has been good. I think the gym skip bin guys for waste management being essential, so which is good. Yeah. And then Petrus Goni, Jim hasn't mentioned before that he's a chocolate addict. Does he have a particular favourite?
Nutella straight from the jar. I'm bad at that. We had some addicts. We had an addict at the Foothills Conference Centre last year, and they asked me to give a talk, and I said, okay, well, I've got to admit to being an addict too, Nutella. I can just get a spoon and just dig into it, and before you know it, this big jar here, like this size of thing, it's gone. So I'm bad on chocolate, yeah, Nutella.
Then Dave McDonald says, Jim, it's September. Can I put my tree up yet?
Your Christmas tree? You can put it up in February if you like. I don't mind.
Then Vaughan's gone.
There's no rules on this kind of thing.
Yeah, go on. No, definitely not. Get a little Jim's ornament for the tree though, David. Maybe at the star you can put the Jim's logo at the top. Then Vaughan's gone here. Do you still support mandatory vaccination? From Vaughan Gillespie.
Yes. Sorry. You can send me abusive emails all you like, but I'm absolutely in favour of it. I seriously think it's idiotic, the idea that it causes. I mean, I'm a big reader of scientific studies and so forth. The idea that vaccination has anything to do with autism is completely debunked by the best studies. You're listening to ridiculous scare stories spread by social media. Don't be fooled by it. Vaccination is one of the greatest things in the whole of human history, and I think it's appalling. If you've ever seen or heard about what happens when a kid dies from measles, it's an awful, awful, awful death. There is nothing noble about it. There's nothing inspiring about it. Measles is a nasty disease, and it causes terrible, terrible injury in some people. To deliberately expose your kid to that sort of risk for the sake of some stupid story spread about by scientific illiterate is really unconscionable. So, sorry, I'm totally, totally in favour of vaccination. I don't say you necessarily put a person in jail, but I would say that if you refuse to get your kids vaccinated, they can't go to childcare, or they can't do other things, or they have to pay extra fees for health services to cover their stupidity. All right. This is why I never make a politician, because I say what I think. All around.
Yeah, that's definitely not a politician's answer for that one there, Vaughan. But thanks for leaving
No,
the question
it
anyway.
is.
But yeah, because it's a whole the whole Bill Gates thing. I know Bill Gates is a hero of yours, and I find it quite annoying that Bill Gates has done more than anyone else in this world. He keeps getting this bloody smear campaign with these people put together a YouTube clip and circulate it and think it's fact, and microchipping people and all this sort of stuff. I think it's quite appalling, to be honest.
He is my number one hero. I think he's the greatest man on this planet. Not only because of what he's done himself, he's used money for some incredibly great purpose, but he inspired others like Warren Buffett to do the same. And I think he's a really, truly one of the greatest men of our time. I have a lot more admiration for him than I do for any other of the billionaires, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And then Prashant's gone here, very excited and looking forward to joining gyms. Received my gym's uniform today and did a ramp walk with the uniform in front of my wife and 5-year-old daughter.
Great.
Thanks for all the support you were showing to all your franchisees. And he's based in Essendon, Melbourne. You're in a good suburb, Essendon. There's a good footy team there. But Prashant, hopefully we can get the lockdown over and you can start earning some good money, mate. That's great.
Yeah.
Then Dave McDonald says, Jim, do you need anything fixed in your house after lockdown? TV pixelating, Wi-Fi not working, sound issues, or maybe a CCTV system?
What I would really like is someone to actually fix up my computer so I can play some of my war games on it, like Rise of Rome and stuff. I can't play them. There's something wrong with the system, and because of the lockdown, nobody can come and have a look at it. But I love Rise of Rome, actually. It's all about Roman Empire expanding, but I always like to take the Greeks and beat up the Romans because I'm always in favour of the Greeks.
So what's the problem with what's the problem? Is it just won't let you play in the system or?
Yeah, he just gives me error messages and stuff, and stupid computer. I don't know why. It's a pretty old game anyway, so why can't it play? All I do is play Conquest, which is kind of risk variant, but that's pretty simple.
I wouldn't expect anything else. Age of Empires, Conquest, those types of games, everyone knows. Jim loved those who watch them. So that's the one there, David. If you can get that sorted for Jim. Yep.
You know what I'd really like to do after lockdown, and this is something that I've been thinking of for a while, I want to get a group together locally and regularly to play actual board games like Diplomacy and Apocalypse, which is about nuclear war and stuff. Just I love those military fighting war games. So I reckon I'm going to really do my best when the lockdown finishes to get a group together to meet regularly. So anybody happens to live around the Murubak area, and is interested in that kind of stuff, get in touch with me. And I think there's something about world conquest which really just fits that niche, that fits that urge somehow. I had a friend at school.
Franchising, so we got something else.
I had a friend at school, and we got together in year 11. And the thing we had in common, we both intended to be world dictator one day. So didn't quite work out for either of us, but still, he got to be a school principal. So that was sort of halfway there, kind of. Yeah.
I was going to say, you're conquering in your own little domains. One of us school and obviously you in franchising, or the home services franchising. So you're doing your own conquering that way. And then we got one here from Yaz on the live feed, which says, what type of an income can you make as a test and tag franchisee? Question from Yaz.
Well, it's pretty good, actually. I wouldn't like to put figures on it. But I mean, if you couldn't be making more than $2,000 a week, I don't think you'd want to go in for it. The best thing you should do is go and actually spend some time, talk to the franchisees in the division, just ask them off the cuff what they're making, and go out and spend a couple of days with different people and see what they make. It's very lucrative, I can tell you that. It's one of the better earning divisions. And I mean, it sort of reflects it. If you want to buy an established test and tag business, it's going to cost you 6 figures, but they're very, very good earners.
And they hang around for a long, long time. It's a good division and a good culture in that division.
Very, very strict selection procedures, very good training, very good support, very low attrition. It's a classic great division.
And Dave McDonald's gone here. Jim, do you like macaroons? We made some Nutella ones the other day.
They're okay. I tell you what, I love pies. Fruit pies is really one of my favorite things. My daughter makes beautiful, beautiful pies and stuff. But she's made something or other. I think I'm going to get it after 8 o'clock when we finish up here. She's made something or other. But fruit pies are lovely. There's a lot of things I like, actually. But I don't mind food. I just tend to eat too much at times. Especially chocolate.
And then Rachel Killen's gone my favorite. Well, Rachel Killen's gone my favorite wine. It costs $6 as well. So you're in a bit of the $6 wine club is getting a bit of favorite. And we've got Dave McDonald says Elon Musk is the one that wants to stick a microchip in everyone. I don't know if you saw the update with the Neuralink stuff. Have you seen that much online?
No. I know there's all sorts of plans about that kind of stuff where they actually want to. I think it's just ridiculous to demonize Bill Gates for it. People do have this idea. You put you put it in your hand, for example, and you can just wave your hand over something, and you can pay for it. So you have it's like an inbuilt credit card and an identity. I mean, it freaks me out, quite frankly. I don't think I want that. I like getting a card
There was
from
a
your wallet.
person
It's not
in there
that
was a
difficult.
person in Sydney. There was a person in Sydney who put their Opal card chip under their hand and kept doing it, and they found out and they voided his card, unfortunately. So it's starting to be done. Then we've got one here from James Hannigan who says, Jimmy, have you got a remote desktop? Your Age of Empires can be fixed without an on-site visit. So if you've got a remote desktop, they're saying someone can maybe log in from your computer remotely and help you out.
Yeah, they probably can actually, but I'd have to sort of load and unload things to see what's going on. But yeah, I probably could. Yeah. Usually I
Absolutely.
get the guys from the office next door to do things for me, but I feel a bit embarrassed to ask them to do private stuff, because they're paid by the company, so I don't like that. I'd like to get Jim's computer services to do it rather than that and pay them myself, but just couldn't find somebody.
So then Paul's gone here, Jim, what are your thoughts on the media around the industrial manslaughter laws and potentially of applying that to the state government? That's a good question, Paul.
Oh, I'd love to. The thing that really, I would so much like to go the Premier for what he's done. And I'm not talking about suing him personally and criminal charges. I really think that it's justified with the kind of way he's acted. His gross neglect. Look, I had a factory, and at one stage I wasn't running it, but we had a factory, and it was run by somebody else. I wasn't involved in it. And then one person got injured. Now, they did something they shouldn't have done. It was really stupid. They disobeyed all the rules, but we were held accountable. I had to go into court, which I find a really humiliating experience, because something under my control happened that somebody was injured. Well, I would think the Premier is 100 times more responsible for the quarantine outbreak. I think he should be personally sued, and I reckon that industrial manslaughter would be a great thing to go against him. I really do. I think this guy has done terrible, terrible things.
So what we'll then do, Jim, is we'll leave it there. It's just touched over 8 o'clock. And apologies, everyone, tonight for the connection. We'll have it sorted out next week and all the questions and comments tonight, guys. Hopefully I got to everything as well. I was on my phone in the end because I was just trying to – the feed was firing up and stuff like that. So we got there in the end. So make sure you stay tuned to the Facebook page this week. Hopefully we get to, as Jim was saying before at the start of the show, regarding on how you can join the action. We'll put a link to that as well. And Jim's got a lot of media this week, so keep an eye out. If you do see Jim on the media, take a screenshot, send it to us. Let us know, and obviously share Jim's content so that if anyone wants to know how to join this sort of stuff, please do that, Jim. Any final thoughts, Jim, before we sign off?
No, keep safe, keep well, and keep a good heart. It'll come to an end eventually, and we want to stick together.
That's it. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week, 7 o'clock again, Wednesday night for Ask Jim. So have a good week and see you.